What's up, YouTube? My name is Dan. My trail name's Hot Pink. I'm making a video today to go over the equipment or gear that I used on my Colorado trail hike that I just finished less than a week ago. Today is Thursday, September 1st, and I just got off trail on Friday. So I'm going to try to keep this one short. I'm only going to go over my big four that I used on this hike. If you guys want me to do another video like I did on my Instagram feed where I go through everything I had in my pack, I'm happy to do that too. So I did a video there where I went through everything that came home in my pack with me that I finished the trail with. And I pointed out some of the things that were different from when I started the trail versus when I finished the trail. But this one, I'm just going to go over my big four. Those are usually the most exciting pieces of gear. Let me know if you have any questions, and I hope you like it. So here we go. So for this trail, I used a new pack to me. This is the Mountain Laurel Designs, or MLD Burn Pack. This is their smallest volume backpacking pack. I think they spec it at 38 liters, and it comes in at 16.5 ounces on their website. I never actually weighed this pack, but I should do that to see what it actually comes in at. This is a large torso, so I'd expect it to be a little bit heavier than that. Also, this is a DCF fabric model that they do not sell that option anymore. I think they just have the grid stop fabric, which is like their original fabric, and now they have it in Challenge. Ultra Fabric by Challenge Sailcloth, which is like the new cool fabric. So they kind of phased this one out. A lot of pack makers seem to be phasing out DCF packs and going with the Ultra Fabric. I bought this last summer directly from MLD when I was on the PCT, and actually didn't even get to use it on the PCT. I was able to get it because it was sold to me as a blemished version, as a blem, and I really don't know what was the blem with this model other than there's one white marker on one water bottle pocket. Like a little mark maybe when they were measuring the fabric. I don't know. Literally the thing was like perfect when I got it, so I kind of got a deal on it, and it was available versus their 3 or 4 month lead time on their packs and other gear. So I was really stoked to get it. I used it on a shakedown hike this winter in Joshua Tree, and then I just went for it and went, this is a frameless pack, and I used it on the Colorado Trail and the Weminuche high route that I did, so almost 500 miles. First time with the frameless pack, and it was pretty sweet. I would do it again. It carried really well, held all my gear. Day one or night one, my shoulders were definitely sore. I did 20 miles on the first day, which was more than I had planned to do. And I think I had a 4-day food carry plus my gear. I'll go over my base weight later, but my shoulders were sore because it's a frameless pack, so pretty much all the weight is being carried on your shoulder straps. One of the reasons I wanted the MLD Burn was it does have a fully padded hip belt, even though it's frameless, so I know it doesn't do a lot or much load bearing. But I could cinch this down and it would take some of the weight from my shoulders when I needed it to. This is a pretty typical frameless pack setup. It has the main body, and then it has a main back pocket and then 2 side pockets, one on each side, that can hold 1 to 2 water bottles. I did add a couple things. I added a shoulder pocket. This is from ULA. I had a ULA pack last summer, and I bought one of their shoulder pockets, and I just kept it and threw it on this pack. I usually carry my phone, my chapstick, and then sometimes a snack in the morning. So I added this, and it is padded, so it's not the lightest, but it's nice to like be able to zip my phone in if it's raining out, which it was raining a ton this summer. And then I did add hip belt pockets. I bought some EcoPack 200 fabric and I sewed myself some hip belt pockets with that. I used YKK number 3 waterproof zippers. I did some, added some grosgrain zipper pulls, and I added some tabs, and then I used these like Siamese slit clips to clip it onto the existing mounting points that are on this pack already. I basically copied the same dimensions of the pockets from MLD and just modeled them after that, and they were plenty big. I would stuff one full of snacks typically in the morning, and then the other one kind of held some other smaller items and maybe a little bit like an extra snack or two. But it held like my headlamp, my toothbrush, toothpaste, my pocket knife, things like that I wanted handy access to during the day. So yeah, that's the pack I went with. Loved it, worked great. I'd use it again. I do have another pack that I ordered, so I was curious to try a pack with the running vest style straps. So I'm excited to try that one. So I might be selling this one in the future. It got a little trail dirt on it, and the only thing I noticed when I made my other video, I did get a small hole in the mesh here, which I can stitch up and I'll fix before I use it again or before I sell it. This is a common weak point, I think, in many packs because you're usually using some kind of mesh or lycra that's just not as durable, and typically I'm really easy on my gear, but when I set my pack down, I set it down this side down because I keep this one off the ground because that goes on my back, so I don't want it like covered in dirt. That's just me. So typically you're setting your pack down like this and it's gonna snag or catch on something, but considering I hiked almost 500 miles and it just got like one hole in the mesh here, I'm pretty impressed, and that's something that I can repair. So this pack is like good to go. And I did tons of brush pushing and bushwhacking on the high route too, and it didn't puncture or snag anything on the fabric on the DCF or anything like that. So super impressed. MLD stuff seems to be as good as I expected it to be. Okay, so the rest of my big 4, I'll show you guys what I used here. All right, well, maybe not a surprise. For my shelter, check my tag, I used a Tarp and Bivy, which I sewed right here at this desk in this living room of my apartment. I used the Uno Mas Tarp and the Burrito Bivy. The Uno Mas Tarp is like my medium-sized tarp that I make, and the Burrito Bivy, I made myself a tall, wide version. And my wife even joined me for over 100 miles on the trail, and she just brought a bivy, and we both slept under the Uno Mas tarp as well. And it rained, and it kept us dry. I'm so incredibly grateful, proud, excited that this thing worked. It kept me dry, it kept me warm, it kept me safe for the entire trail. It's still good to go. There's no deterioration in it. And with as much precipitation as we had this summer, at least as much as I had on this trail, which was uncommon and unexpected by me, all the locals when we go into town, they're like, I've never seen it rain this much in August here. So for the amount of rain that I had, I only cowboy camped 2 nights. Every other night I was pitched and under this thing. And it was awesome. I had my first bad rainstorm. I learned a very valuable lesson about tarp camping. And that was because it's still new to me. And I pitched my tarp in the wrong direction. And I pitched it I had poor site selection. So basically, I'd pitched my tarp. I didn't even think it was going to rain, and it ended up raining for about 5 hours straight that night. And I pitched in like a depression in between some trees. I thought it was good because the trees would cut some of the rain and wind down, which it did, but I was in a depression in the dirt, and water started pooling up around me on both sides of my bivy. But I had my sleeping pad in my bivy, and the bivy kept my sleeping pad dry until I was able to the rain let up. I went out, I scouted another spot that wasn't flooded, and I broke everything down and repitched it, and then slept the rest of the night. So I learned a lesson that night to pick better site selection and to be aware of the angle that I'm pitching relative to where I think the storm and the rain is going to come from. So after that, I never had to repitch anything. I was able to pitch. I typically pitch the head end facing south or southeast because the storms were usually coming from the west and kind of from the north. So every other night after that, I was pitched, I was warm, I was dry, and it worked awesome. So I'm super pumped. This thing lasted the whole trail. This is the stuff sack that I make just for the tarp. I didn't take the stuff sack for the Bivy, and this is actually the tarp and the Bivy in one stuff sack. And this thing weighs about 1 pound altogether. Where my water bottle is. This is a coffee mug. Here's like a size comparison. This thing packs down super tiny. It doesn't take up much pack volume. When I would pack up sometimes and it was wet in the morning, I would just pack it in here, and then I would put it in my other water bottle pocket so that when the sun came out, I could just take it out and yard sale and dry it out real quick in the sun, and which is super nice. It would dry out in like minutes. Something that I also figured out on the trail too was I could clip in the Bivy under the tarp, which is like one of the design features, and I could pack it up and then repitch it again that way if I wanted to, versus clipping in the Bivy at night, then unclipping it in the morning, packing it all the way independently. So that was kind of cool that I tried it and it worked, that I could have it all hooked up as one system with the tarp and Bivy, and pitch it and take it down and repitch it again the next night. So that was my shelter. Would use again, not surprisingly, since I made it. Okay. I am curious though to try a bigger tarp for my wife and I. It was a tight squeeze. Also, I'm excited to make some flat tarps too. I know I've talked to a bunch of people that are into tarp camping, and the people really like flat tarps. So, okay, moving on. The rest of my big four, I guess I'll do, doesn't matter. So in the back side of my pack, kind of the ultralight hack is to fold up your sleeping pad. If you're using an inflatable one, you fold it up and you put it on the inside. So I would try to fold it into a rectangle like this, and then it would sit on the back part against my back, and it would kind of smooth out and provide some padding to the rest of my gear. And then it makes like a quasi frame, if you will, to try to like stabilize, and I don't think it really transfers any weight, but that's just kind of what people do. I did use a foam pad. I used the Nemo Switchback last summer, which was fine, but I'm a side sleeper and my hips would get tired, and this is a new pad for me, and this thing was awesome. This is the Xped brand Synmat, SYNMAT, HLLW. So I think HL is like their hyperlight line. It's for, I guess, their lighter backpacking pads. And then LW is long wide. So I have a long wide version since I'm 6'4". This thing is a mummy shape. I don't know if they make a rectangle or not. So it's a little wider at the head and shoulders, and it definitely tapers towards the foot end. But I slept very comfortably on this thing. It's really thick. It kept my hips off the ground. It was just long enough for me at 6'4", and I didn't really have any issues rolling off of it or anything like that. It does have vertical baffles, so they run from like head to toe, which I liked. I don't really have much to compare it to. I had an old Thermarest, like a really old Venture model with horizontal baffles. But yeah, this thing was sweet. I'd use it again. I'm going to use it again. It has a good R value. It's over 3. So it's slightly lower than the Thermarest X-Lite, the yellow one that everyone uses. But this thing was a really good deal, and it weighs less than a pound. It's 15.5 ounces on my scale, and that's for a long wide version, which is like really, really cool. So yeah, this thing was great. It's really basic. It has a valve here and the inflation and deflation valve. And then it has this little toggle that when I want to deflate it in the morning, I would just undo the cap, and then you just kind of wedge this little toggle into the valve, and it holds it open so the air can escape kind of while you're doing the rest of your chores. And then you can just roll it up and fold it up and you're good to go. So yeah, this thing was sweet. And then I used my trusty old REI Igneo 17 long men's sleeping bag. It's a full sleeping bag, full mummy zip. It like tapers at the foot, has like goes over your head completely. It's got a nice draft collar on it and like cinches down around the face. This is like my first and only like hardcore sleeping bag since my very first backpacking trip on the JMT in 2018. I got it from REI, I got it on sale, and this thing has been just rock solid for me. It weighs over 2 pounds, it's like 34 ounces, but it's a long version, so I'm always gonna have a little bit of a weight penalty. I like mummy bags, I like being cozy, I like being zipped in. I have not tried a quilt yet. I'm definitely curious, especially with my new pack that's even smaller volume, whether I'm going to be able to use this with a stuff sack and compress it enough, or if I want to cut a decent amount of weight and some volume is by switching to a quilt. But this thing's labeled a 17 degree, which commonly with men's sleeping bags, that means the comfort limit is like 10 degrees above that. So that would be 27 degrees. I've definitely slept in freezing conditions. This summer we woke up covered in frost. Everything was covered in frost. But I was warm. And I think this summer, I don't think I ever needed to sleep with my puffy on. I definitely slept with my fleece layer on some nights, but I never needed to sleep with my puffy on. Last summer on the PCT in the Sierra, we had a couple, more than like 3 or 4 really cold nights in a row, and we woke up with frozen water bottles, and I had every layer on, and I was in this bag zipped in, and towards the morning, like one morning when our water was frozen, that was when I was cold. But I was also sleeping on a foam pad, which has like an R value of 1, so that probably didn't help either. But yeah, super grateful. This thing kept me alive and dry and warm and safe, so that was sweet. Yeah, so that's it. MLD Burn, the Onda, Tarp and Bivy, my Xped sleeping pad, and my REI sleeping bag. The only couple things that go with that were, I do use a pillow. The pillow I do use is the Big Sky Dream Sleeper. It folds up into this little stuff sack. And I use a buff as a pillowcase. And then with the Xped, it comes with this stuff sack, or they call it a pump bag, a schnozzle pump bag, UL medium, because it has a little fitting here that you can attach to the valve on the sleeping pad, and then you just scoop this with air and then roll it up, and then you can push the air into the sleeping pad. It does work. I can do it with about 3 or 4 good scoops of air in this. I can fill up the sleeping pad, and then you just top it off with your own breath. But because I use this kind of as my dry bag, which had my sleeping bag and my base layers in it, I typically wasn't able to dump out that stuff and then use it to inflate it, so it kind of just worked as a dry bag. So I don't know if I would take it again, just because I really didn't have the opportunity to use it as much as it would have been nice to. Because we had so much rain, the ground was wet. I didn't want to dump all my dry stuff on the ground while I inflated my sleeping pad. So, but it's cool that it comes with it, and it comes with a patch kit. So that was nice, but there's lighter, more compact versions. And then in order to pitch the Tarp and Bivy, I carried MSR Groundhog Minis. This is a little stuff sack I made for these. So I carry 8 of them. I've had all 6 of these since last summer, which went over 1,200 miles on the PCT, and then I added 2 more this summer to go with the Tarp. The ground was really wet and pretty soft a lot of nights on the CT this summer, but these things held. Once my Tarp was fully pitched, I never had a stake blow out on me, knock on wood, like in the middle of the night from any wind gusts or storms or anything. Sometimes as I was setting the Tarp up, if I didn't put one stake in and I pulled too hard on the opposite side, it would pull one out. But once I had everything pitched and I had these stakes into the ground all the way, I never had any problems with them. So it worked for me. It would be tempting with that much rain and the soft ground to have like the full-size MSR or something, the full-size groundhogs or something. But they're compact and light, so I'm gonna keep using them. They worked great. And then with my Tarp, I just use my trekking poles to pitch it. If you're super hardcore, you could just look for trees and sticks and stuff like that. But I carry trekking poles and I use these. These are the Cascade Mountain Tech, I think they're called. They're from Amazon. They're the cork handle versions, and they're also like the carbon fiber versions. I feel like they're just wrapped with like a decorative tape that looks like carbon fiber, and they're probably just plastic, but I don't know. Maybe they are carbon fiber. But I got them last summer, did half the PCT, 500 miles with them. The only thing I've done is I had the tips replaced last summer, which was like $15 maybe at a gear shop. And these tips, actually, I think they're black diamond tips. They still look like new, like they barely are even worn. So for the value and how long they've lasted, they're 3-piece telescoping with cork grips. These things are awesome. They do come with wrist straps, which I cut off. That was just me. The cork is kind of starting to deteriorate a little bit, but I mean, for how much I paid for these things are awesome. So they're still rocking. I'd still use them. Yeah, so would I change anything? The pack, I'm going to try a different pack. We'll see if we can do some short trips here, maybe in the Smokies or something this fall or the end of summer here. Just because I'm curious to use a pack with shoulder straps, running vest straps. So I'm excited. I'll show you guys that pack when I get it. So this pack was great. I'd use it again. Sleeping bag was great. I'd use it again, but I am tempted to try a quilt. Maybe if I get like a tall and a wide version and I can like really cocoon myself in it, maybe that would be a good trade-off and I can save some weight and some pack volume. Yeah, and the sleeping pad was good. So yeah, just always curious to try different pieces of gear, but all this gear worked, and it was a hard hike. It was a long hike. It was a rainy hike, but it was rock solid. So yeah, let me know if you guys want me to do another YouTube version of my full gear review from the hike. And I'm happy to do that, to put it on YouTube here. So it's landscape format instead of portrait. That's it. Yeah. Let me know if you guys have questions, any other gear you have questions about that I use, that I would use. Maybe I'll do a video where I just go over the gear that I changed during my hike, or added or changed. Cool. Thanks guys. Cheers. Take it easy. Happy hiking.